This is Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions with Alastair Lynch, Tom Rockliff and Dylan Lynch.
We have grand finalists, we have a Brownlow medal, we have the biggest game of the year, and this is the show the big dogs listen to. I can assure you of that. Hello everyone, welcome to Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions 2024 AFL Grand Final edition. We're recording on the Tuesday morning after Patrick Cripps won the Brownlow with 45 votes. We'll get into that. Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan Leach. You might know me from this podcast or news.com.au. Joining me is everyone's one-time Supercoach captain and former Brisbane Lions captain, if you don't mind, Tom Rockliff.
Yes, Dylan. I'm going to address that once you introduce Lynchy.
And three-time premiership player for the Brisbane Lions, 1989 Mark of the Year winner. I think he saw what the prize was last night and thought, geez, will they give those retrospectively? Alastair Lynch. Hello, Lynchy.
Dill, how are you, mate? After a very big week for you, and you just big noting yourself for saying .com you were featured on the news.
Yeah, let's address it, Dill, because
it is a grand final week. We've got Brownlow medalists. I've got two former captains of one of the competing teams here. But let's talk about ourselves. Come on, Tom.
Well, you made the news. So you've attacked Kane Cornes for what, 3 or 4 years now? Relentlessly, me and Lynchy.
I wouldn't say relentless, but go on.
And we've defended him.
We've defended him. We've tried to stay out of your path when you've fired up on this show, and he's confronted you face to face. So take us inside what's happened in the SEN studios last week.
Well, it's exactly the same as what I told you on your Saturday morning program on Triple M Adelaide, Tom. But
I wasn't tuned in, so tell me.
Okay, so I went downstairs to SEN because our company, our parent company, Entain, shares the same building as SEN in Melbourne. Went down, saw a couple of friends there, and Kane was there. As he was leaving, he said something as he was walking off, dropped the C-bomb. I was impressed that he knew who I was. And then basically just did a mic drop moment and left. That's the best way to sum it up. And then all of a sudden, everyone starts talking about it. And then I get calls from various football media types. And it makes the first segment on Triple M football prior to a preliminary final. And then is reported on news.com. And I think the Herald Sun ran with it as well. And, I had a good, 15 minutes of fame, literally 15 minutes of fame. In fact, I think that Triple M segment went longer than 15 minutes. And you know what they say, the best thing about what's worse than it being talked about is not being talked about. So a bit of publicity.
He's accused you of being an online troll and saying stuff that you wouldn't say to his face, and then he reckons you went to water. He reckons you absolutely melted. Is that fact? You didn't back down.
Surely you backed it up and give him a cook.
Well, he left. He did literally a mic drop moment and left, and it was in a public space. So I'm not. I don't buy this online troll stuff. Like,
what did you say about him? Why did he blow up?
Oh, because we've had him in skits, and we've said. We've said that some of his opinions are a bit boring, and I think there were some exchanges about Jason Horne-Francis a couple of years ago he didn't like, but. I mean, Kane, as I said on your show, Tom, Kane is a receipt keeper. He's one of the best receipt keepers in the business. He's the H&R Block of social media. He'll remember everything you say, and here I am. When I have tips with media people, I don't just have them with little minor leagues. I go on the big leagues and have them with the big dogs.
My mail is he folded.
That's disappointing. If you're going to give someone half a clip, you want to stand up for yourself and sort of bite back.
I would happily engage in a conversation, but if someone walks off and tries to do the mic drop, I'm not going to just say, right, we're on here. I was trying to enjoy my morning in my workplace.
Maybe you intimidated him and he had to get out of the room.
Well, maybe, because we know that Lynchy front up. And 20 years ago to the day almost, he started throwing them.
Oh, no need to go down that path.
If that's the case, I landed it. Well, if that's the case, I landed as many punches as Lynchy then that day.
No, that's right. That's exactly right.
We'll move on, but I'm disappointed you folded. I'm disappointed you folded up, Dill. I thought you might have gone him.
I was flattered to get the publicity, and can I just say the bosses at Ned's delighted about the publicity it got. So,
that's not.
I'm not going to change.
That's not what me and Lynchy just heard in the studio. It's quite the opposite.
They sort of said to Rocky to sort of tidy up his hosting stuff because Might be busy.
No, it's I'm not going to back down. My style will not change.
All right.
Just as long as it's online, apparently, Lynch, you're not face to face.
That's ridiculous. All of our content is online.
Yeah, but you had a chance to
Say it to him.
Saddle up and say, come on, Kano.
All right. There's a grand final this week. There's the grand final this week.
Yes.
The club you both represented proudly is playing in it again.
All right, mate.
All right, let's
Fair
go.
enough.
Let's move on.
We've got our clip for the week. We'll post that and then let's go.
We're not posting that this week. I've had enough. Speaking of online trolls, Jesus Christ, the irony of some of the comments I got. Moving on. Sydney and Brisbane in the grand final. What a magnificent performance by the Brisbane Lions on Saturday. As two ex-captains of the club, you must be absolutely stoked.
Absolutely. And we were chatting during the game about how they got off to a poor start. There was some mistakes made. And I think, and I'll put my hand up, for periods of the year, I've felt, actually for the last couple of years, I think they've had the talent. Their best is very good. I just felt they missed some shots at goal and missed moments at times in big games. They've nailed that the last couple of weeks. And you talk about moments, whether it's Zach Bailey getting in the right space and converting one, or Cam Rayner on the left foot, or Dane Zorko, who turned the ball over in the first half but kept going and started hitting targets and turned things around, very much like last week. So they've come a long way, I think, just in the last couple of weeks, how they've been behind, fought back, and then put the opposition away. So I think it's been a great effort.
And when you have performances like that, you've got belief that you can win it from anywhere. Coming back from 44 points or whatever it was against the Giants, and then 25 on the weekend against Geelong, who were red hot at the time, they've done really well. So they'll take great belief into it this weekend. The only concern is if they switch off for a period of time against Sydney, it could be game over. They looked as slick as anyone on Friday night, so they're going to have to be sharp. But I think they can get it done, can't they?
They can. They've got a number of players, almost that X-factor players, that can rip the game out of your hands, and they're not reliant on one or two. And we know Charlie Cameron's had a tough year, but he could do it in a 10-minute burst. We've seen with Rayner, seen with Bailey. Not so much, he's not an X-factor player, but who's been enormous probably over the last couple of months, and especially the last 2 weeks. Cal Archie, what he's done, and you think back to when he was recruited, there was two players available from the Gold Coast. It was Jack Martin for a poultice, like big money, or there was Cal Archie for relatively too bob.
Peanuts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's playing a very good role. Defensive forward, wing, he's been enormous over the recent times. And I think that shows the squad depth, which will be tested in the ruck with Darcy Fort coming in. But Darcy was playing that well in past years. They were forced to play an extra big. They forced to play him, and I think he'll do a really good job. And it'll probably be one they'll roll the dice, knowing that Joe can go into the ruck. They might go hard with Darcy Fort for a bit over 2 quarters, and then maybe make the sub then.
And you speak about like the spurts. Even Rayner's game on the weekend, he was quiet in the first half, and then he went bang, 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 and almost ripped the game away from Geelong. Bailey's the same. So they've got match winners. Loman,
Keep just putting the saddle on. And that's what you want. You need a core that's you can just rely on. And that's Neil you can rely on. For a 20-year-old, you can just rely on Will Ashcroft.
Yeah,
bloody
Ashcroft, superstar. Andrews.
Harris Andrews.
Ryan Lester.
Now, you played with Ryan Lester. Now, I think we've on this show in the past, we've sort of half joked. After his first couple of contracts, he's been on 1 year. And I've heard part of those conversations is, tossing up, who do we go with here? He's such a class bloke. Let's give him another 1 year. Yeah. And he's done that. Now he's playing the best footy of his career.
Well, it's sort of the back end of my time at Lions. He sort of was there as just because he was a good bloke.
Yeah.
Like he was in the leadership group and he did everything right. And I think he even may have captained a couple of premierships in the NEFL at the time. And then he doesn't look out of place and looks like he could keep going. He was outstanding on the weekend.
Oh, he was. And just maybe a bit of focus on the Swans.
Yeah.
The Swans are the best team for the first 2/3 of the year, and probably the last half of the year, the Brisbane Lions have been there. I've won 13 of 15 games or something like that, and found really good form. This midfield battle battle. Now that if you put it into the mix, Rayner gets in there and Bailey gets in there and that sort of stuff. The depth of midfield, you got the obvious of Warner, Gould and Heaney, but it's that next tier of Sydney midfielders. You go with Rowbottom gets in there. Parker can go through as well.
Florent, Jordan.
Oh, it just keeps going.
Rowbottom.
So that's where I think the contest is going to be enormous through the midfield with depth of talent.
And you speak about match winners in that front half as well. Papley is as good as anyone. He can turn a game. And Luke Parker's, his role that he did on Aliir started as good as anyone on the weekend and looked like he was going to be the brick wall for Port Adelaide if they were going to win the game. Parker goes to him, doesn't necessarily have a huge impact, kicks one or two on him, but takes him out of the contest.
Yeah.
So then their whole system broke down from there, Port Adelaide. And they're Blakey off halfback. It's going to be a cracking grand final.
Yeah, it will be a ripper. What are your thoughts, Dill?
Oh, we've definitely got the best two teams in the grand final. You're right about Sydney. We're obviously dominant for the first 2/3 of the season. Brisbane have been the best team for the second half. I must say, and I'd love to get your views on it for both of you. I think we touched on it a bit last week, actually. Brisbane have actually been such a joy to watch in the second half of the season. That self-belief that we can just do it from anywhere. And I know you touched on, I think it was on our first show of the final, so a couple of weeks ago, about how Brisbane can win the flag from fifth position. Is this, as two ex-captains and two people that obviously have a massive connection with the club, has this been one of the more fun and enjoyable times to be a Brisbane Lions supporter and associate yourself with that club? Because every time you watch them, you can't help but smile.
Oh, yes, after that initial 8, 9, 10 weeks of the season.
The second half of the season, yeah.
Yeah, so once they got embarrassed in Canberra against GWS, and it's almost since that time, and it's probably against expectations. You think, well, they're going to struggle now, which I think is a great sign of their resilience to get back up and going and be competitive. But yeah, that roll the dice, and you hear them talk about it. On the banner, believe, and just the way they're having a crack and the way everyone contributes. And I think Dane Zorko, he deserves All Australian. He's been enormous because, and as it was typical of the weekend, missing targets. And that's probably been a bit harsh. He missed a few targets, but he keeps going for them.
Yeah.
Then starts hitting them, and away they go. And I think that's where you sort of sit back and smile. And absolutely, I had them tipped at the start of the finals to win the flag. But that was still with the caveat, though, they've got to grab their moments, which they hadn't really done, I didn't think, but they've done that now. So absolutely, I'm all in.
Four prelims in 5 years as well, I think it is now. It's
enormous.
They've been huge, and I think we spoke about on this show potentially look to next year and coming back bigger and better when they were in that form slump. And I think even Chris Fagan admitted going in the game, if you had said they were in a prelim, he would have almost laughed at you. And now they're in a grand final. Their footy, as we just touched on before, is as good as anyone when they're up and going. This will be, I think, probably the greatest premiership if they win it in the AFL era. I know everyone speaks about the Western Bulldogs of 16, but where you think they were at after everyone was talking about their off-season in America, how they'd had this big rift, they were 2-5, they'd just been spanked by the Giants down there on their knees, thrown caution to the wind. They're going to do it the hard way. They're going to come from fifth, so they're going to play every week of the finals. I think it's up there with the AFL era best premiership if they are to do it on Saturday afternoon.
I think that's a great call. And if you go into our YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure there's the clip of you two talking about what's wrong with the Lions after that GWS game. Tom, I'd love to get your thoughts on Chris Fagan. Now, obviously, he was only your coach there in your last season at the Lions, but it's so obvious that the players love him and want to play for him. Were those signs obvious when he started at the club? Because, I mean, when he arrived, Brisbane was on its knees. Yeah,
absolutely. I think he took over a fractured footy club that needed a lot of remakings. I think David Noble was important to that as well. I think him and Fags came in. And for me personally, I can only speak to my experience. He was exceptional. I'd sort of my history, and I was sort of at a crossroads, and he made me fall back in love with the game of footy and what it was about. And he's big on family. He's big on just doing the little things. And he wasn't, and I'm not sure what he's like now. He might be a bit more tactical, but tactics weren't really a thing. It was about building and building the environment correctly. And he knew that it was hard times there. We'd been at the bottom, couldn't find our way out, and he just came in, took over, really, really strong. And from then, like, I think we won the wooden spoon that year, but it was a really enjoyable year, and we started to build a bit of momentum. And, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Fags and what he's been able to do. And I think holding the Premiership Cup up would be a great reward for him.
Yeah, and as you said, part of it was turning things around, changing the culture in the club and retaining talent. So I think you went 5 wins in his first couple of years, but started to retain talent, started to attract talent.
Yeah.
And then if you got players like Lockie Neal wanting to come to the club, I mean, that's a big endorsement of what you're actually building. So no, it's exciting times for both teams, both enormously talented, been around the mark for a few years, and to get the two losers of the most recent grand finals up against each other to grab a flag, that's huge.
And Longmire, his record at Sydney's incredible.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
They just don't fall away. They had that one year, I think it was a COVID-affected year. He spoke about it, I think, in his press conference after the game. It actually gelled them. In 2020, they were really young. They learnt so much about each other. They were on the road a lot, and I think it's probably held them in good stead. We played them in 2021, and Stewie Graham, the high performance at Port Adelaide, said they're going to be a weapon. They're young, but they're going to be a weapon. Then next year they play off in a grand final.
And of course, Lynchy, you said on this program a few weeks back that the Sydney Swans are without doubt the best sporting organisation in Australia, and I think that their efforts this season has pretty much proven that. Basically, the Sydney Swans in the AFL and the Melbourne Storm in the NRL are, very similar kinds of clubs in similar kinds of markets, respectively. And you just look at the amazing performances that they do every week.
To stay competitive in a non-traditional market, to fill the stadium, and as we've spoken about this before, SCG Friday night full house, it's hard to beat the atmosphere. I mean, it's incredible. Also, on top of that, they're reinventing, they're generating local talent through their academies. I mean, through that COVID year, I reckon Goulden played his first game at the Gabba.
Yes, he did. Yeah, dominated.
He was all but best on ground. So you got Goulden and Heaney, local kids that are just lifting this club. It's incredible what they're doing. And John Longmire and Andrew Ireland, former boss of the Brisbane Lions, and certainly the Sydney Swans, should be enormously proud of what they've put together.
And you speak about what they've done. So there was a AFL at the SCG NRL game next door. Yeah. And I know that the Sharks, your Sharks actually, and North Queensland. So it's not too big, and they had to cross or the stadiums there or something, but they've had 44,000 at the SCG and 19,000 at an elimination final next door. So it just goes to show that they've had an impact and done an outstanding job, the Sydney Swans.
One worth talking about, injuries.
Yep.
Now, obviously Oscar's going to be out, which is shattering, and he fought through that first dislocation extremely well, got to the stage where he just had to, popped out again and had to be subbed out. But the Cal Mills one, they haven't ruled him out yet, and I'm not sure what they're going to do there. But we think they talk about the 21-day hamstring. You have to go back to the COVID year. It was Stephen May. Now, so they had the bye before, but he hurt his hamstring in that prelim final. So I think he had probably 4 or 5 days less prep, and he got through beautifully. Now, a different position, granted, and Stephen May would, with respect, he'd be more important to Melbourne's structure, being a key position player, I would have thought, than Mills with a part of the season under his belt. It would be a massive risk to take him in, but I think with the May example, it can be done because we don't actually know how severe it actually was.
It might have just been, tightness, etc. But I would say they wouldn't take him just off his year that he's had. Yeah. Because he didn't play. If he had the whole summer and he'd played all season, then he's nicked it, maybe. But I think just with the limited preparation he's had throughout the season, it's not worth the risk. It's running around chasing Charlie Cameron or something.
Jeez.
Good luck.
It's all part of the fun. What would grand final week be without some injury talk? Moving right along, we are recording this.
One more injury. One more injury.
Yes, true.
One of the great chase down tackles late in the game was Jack Payne.
Yep.
Oh, yes, Jack Payne, yes.
Jack Payne tackle. Do you see how slow he was getting up and held his knee?
Yeah.
So this is in the last minute of the game. He's holding his knee. that could be a concern. Now, he missed last year. He was injured in last year's grand final. We saw that, not that Sydney have a big power forward that's going to do a Hogan. It was clear that against Hogan he was underdone. And so he's still carrying a knee into this game. That'll be a big watch this week, whether they can feel confident enough to go with him if that medial was arced up in that tackle. Yeah,
it's a good call. Probably been an oversight with all the other news around as well, but he certainly did, didn't he? Grabbed it and he was sore. So they're dangerous though, Sydney. Like Amadi and that, if they get going. So you want to be 100%. You don't want to be carrying too many. We know Lachie Neale's pretty much living in a moon boot most of the week, and so they've got sore bodies, but yeah, you got to be careful who you take into a grand final.
Because Brisbane will want him in because we saw what happened, how he's so important structurally, but he's got to be fit.
Yeah.
So if he plays at fullback, perfect. That allows Harris Andrews to be half back, whereas in the grand final last year,
Billy
Frampton just took him to fullback.
Yeah.
And that was a win for Collingwood. Sorry, Dill.
No. Apologies to Jack Payne. Again, what Tom said, there's just so much going around. The Brownlow last night, obviously we're recording this on a Tuesday morning. Patrick Cripps winning with 45 votes. Nick Dacos getting also a record amount of votes, but still runner-up. Now, I love the Brownlow. I love the randomness of it. I love sometimes the stories where they got the wrong Dacos in one of the games. I think it was the Collingwood-Melbourne game where they were meant to give it to Josh but gave it to Nick. I love the randomness of it. I think it would be a less fun award if it was judged by the media or what have you. But in saying that, Cripps getting 45 votes, I think he's a worthy Brownlow medalist, but I'm not sure if it's 45 votes. It's probably got a lot to do with the fact that the umpires have had so much else to worry about this year with silly rules interpretations, rules within rules, which we have spoken about a lot on this show this year. And so naturally, when they are at the end of the day probably exhausted, just randomly giving Brownlow votes and not checking the stats because they can't. So firstly, congratulations to Patrick Cripps. But again, I think he's a worthy two-time Brownlow medalist, but 45 votes, gee whiz.
That's the thing. I think he deserves to be the winner. Nick was always going to be around the mark, first or second or third or something like that. I just think the focus, there's that much media attention on the superstars in the game, I think quite rightly he wins the Brownlow medal, but because there's so much focus on a few players, the umpires get drawn to those players and probably get more votes.
Unless your name is Marcus Bontempelli.
Well, you walk in and the AFL CEO's wife says that you're not going to win it. You probably know it's time to go home. Did you see that on the red carpet?
No.
She said her tip was Bont, but she's being told that doesn't have a very good year.
Oh, jeez.
He's won the Players Association Player of the Year, Captain of the Year, All-Australian Captain of the Year, and he's lost to Brownlow by 26 votes. That just says that there's something wrong with something in the system. I don't think, we can't even trust the umpires to really umpire the game right anymore. I know that that's the award. I don't think it should be looked at as the number one award. And if we go to the bye before the grand final, like you want, Lynchy, have all the awards on one night. So instead of dragging on like it did last night, which the coverage on Channel 7.
Which is a long night.
Horrific, if you ask me. But that's.
You didn't like it. You didn't like the 7 coverage.
No, terrible. And just some of the questioning. And then,
You didn't like Hamish's 2 gag?
No, just a lot of it. Like even his question of Harley Reid and stuff. It was just, it was a bizarre night. And then you have Angus Brayshaw, who got up, spoke really well, but at the end of the day, they're only just finishing playing footy. None of them had died.
I didn't mind Brayshaw's speech. I thought maybe the in memorandum montage afterwards was a bit much.
The song and stuff, they're only just retiring. They're not even retiring. It's footy. They're finishing playing a sport. So, but to have 45 votes, and then as you said, if the awards compromise if they're giving votes to players that are getting subbed off after 15 touches, and I think Petty got 3 votes when he had 12. Round 0 was a prime example for me. So Brisbane versus Carlton. Did you see the votes?
No.
1 vote Harris Andrews, 2 votes Charlie Curnow, 3 votes Harry Mackay. So you're telling me that Harris Andrews played on one of the best on ground or second best on ground, and he's the 3rd best on ground player?
Yeah, fair point. fair point.
I always believe the umpires should do the votes and everything, but I think if you were having a decent, an honest conversation about how you give the votes. Is it a matter of if the umpire observer does the votes or if there's one designated umpire to do the votes? So one person can focus on that and they don't get caught up in, I saw Lockie Neal get a heap of the ball, so we'll just give him votes or whatnot, because there's obviously a heap of that going on.
Stick to the way it is. That's the.
But it's also the beauty
that is the Brownlow medal. It has been the prestigious award. I think that might evolve to the. I would say that the coaches' award's probably the one.
I reckon the players. Is the one for me. Just because the coaches, they can get favourites, if you know what I mean. Like coaches can see one of their boys.
But how do the players vote for the Players Association award?
So the Players Association send out a survey and you've got to nominate, I think, 3 players at your club. And so 3, 2, 1 of the best players at your club for the season.
Oh, yeah, yes.
They get nominated and then it gets sent around to the rest of the competition, and you've got to vote 3, 2, and 1 on the best players from the other clubs, from the other 17 clubs.
And I reckon maybe that's got more serious over time. I reckon it was
used to be a piss take.
Yeah, no one put any time into it. Just think, Rocky's been pretty good, I reckon. So yeah, you're down.
If you go that way, you've got to say to the players, you've got to be genuine, and I think they are a lot more now than what it was.
Evolved.
But the coaches, I agree. The coaches see it as good as anyone, but at times they can give votes on a biased opinion, in my opinion. Like some players can get votes, and you're like, was he best? So there is some inconsistencies, and you're never going to have a perfect system. It's like a best and fairest award. Like you're never going to have a perfect system, but I think at the end of the day, we got the best player of the year.
Best couple of players.
Whether he was 16 votes or whatever in front of the third best player in the competition, probably not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Look, I think you're right that perhaps internally things like the MVP or the coach's award might be might be seen as a bit more prestigious, but the Brownlow is always going to be the Brownlow. It's got the history, it's got the stories, it's got the randomness about it. It's part of the fabric of the game, and it'll always just be the most prestigious in the eyes of everyone because it's the Brownlow.
Well, you used to be a player manager, Lynchy, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. Loosely termed,
a shareholder in the company.
You understand how contracts work. So some players can have triggers of Brownlow medals.
Brownlows. Yeah, I think Vossi had a Brownlow medal trigger in his.
Really?
When he won it.
Cha-ching.
Oh, absolutely.
If you were advising a player now, you couldn't tell them to put a Brownlow clause in there, particularly like a Marcus Bontempelli, who I certainly do. I think he's been the best player for the last 5 to 7 years in the competition. He doesn't even get near winning it.
Yeah.
I would be advising them not to put a Brownlow clause, like best and fairest, potentially all Australian.
I think best and fairest
games.
I think best and fairest, it's got to be there. And I wouldn't be chucking a number in. I'd be, with the way the cap goes, I'd be chucking a percentage in.
Yeah.
So this is the percentage I want to get paid. So if it goes up, I'm going up with it.
And to go back to the subject of awards, especially 2 that were given out last night, Goal of the Year, Harley Reid was not Goal of the Year. I don't know why that was Goal of the Year.
So who'd you have Goal of the Year then?
Jeremy Cameron in the qualifying final. And the mark and Goal of the Year were taken in the qualifying finals.
Yeah.
So we need I think the general consensus is to add finals to that award.
Oh, that's an easy one.
Yeah. Because last night just proved it.
It's got to be.
Absolutely.
I can't believe they just have it for the home and away season.
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. But how do you present it just at the end of the year? Because after, so you just say, because you don't have an awards night or anything.
Send them into.
Lynchy went into Channel 7 and picked up a car from Sandy Roberts back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think going to On the Couch on Fox Footy and presented there.
Yeah.
But some of the most iconic goals of all time and marks have been in grand final days. Well, I think. And Heaney's mark, my God.
And it's 50 grand and 2 million velocity points or something. I think it was mark of the year.
Jamie Elliott was flat as a shit Carter's. Oh, shit.
Do you and Jamie Elliott as fellow mark of the year winners go, what the hell?
No, I think I was very lucky. Yes, very lucky. But there was a TV at one stage, or
I think it was a $1,000 fuel card. It just went to nothing.
Nick Nat-Nui at one stage got, I think, 10 grand and a year's supply of Weet-Bix.
Yeah,
you'd want to eat them, wouldn't you? Do you think they gave it to Harley Reid because they thought we've robbed him of the Rising Star, so we better give him something?
Him up. I reckon Harley will be right. He'll be fine. He'll get enough awards.
That's why I reckon next year Nick Dacos is going to win what I call a compensation Brownlow, because Swanee won a Compo 1 in the year he got it, and Lockie Neal's last year was a Compo 1 for 22.
So you won't need any compos, Nick. He'll be flying. I was going to say, Ronnie O'Brien getting the Jim Steins Award.
Yeah, there's so many players that do great things.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing, and it was great to see what he does and the effort he puts in and the passion to do what he does. But there's so many players at each club. It's great to see. And I mean, at times when players get onto the front page, stereotypical footballer can get a clip. There's some high-class citizens. A huge majority of each list have got high-class representatives that do an enormous amount for the community. And I thought that was just fantastic that was up there in the main stage late in the night, so we all got to see it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the Jim Steins Award being part of the Brownlow medal. I think that is a great move. Boys, we've got some betting to talk about.
Just one before we go to the betting, because I've been on it all year. The Tribunal have missed another one.
Like, what did they miss this week?
Dangerfield. That's been a week all year, has it not?
Yeah. He'd given himself a week, didn't he? After the tackle.
Yeah, I think so. He's
Absolutely
gone,
he did.
No, I'm not playing in the granny if we get it.
Well, he didn't fire a shot after that. He knew he made a mistake.
Yeah.
Now, I think it was more than just giving away the free kick. I thought he was really concerned that he was going to get a week.
Well, he should have got a week. And how he's got a fine. Like, you can't, and I know it's the finals and that, but that's been a week all year. And we've all said that, yes, we don't necessarily agree with it. Hit him in the, like, pin arms, head on the ground, bang. That's a week. So
the one that he got off, you got the week and then got off. So I didn't believe that was a week. But I saw that was more, he more drove him in that one. Yeah, I thought that was
that's almost a textbook.
Almost ticked all the boxes. So, yeah, I think he felt that. He thought, oh, no, I'm in strife here. So, yeah, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. But different time of year.
No, that's right.
Different time of year.
Imagine if we lost Heaney for the grand final this week for what he got suspended for.
Well, that's right. Imagine, and we've dodged a bullet.
The Brownlow.
But what if we missed Hugh McCluggage from that Dangerfield tackle?
Yeah. Well,
so if his head hits the ground a bit harder,
another point. Yeah,
he's out.
Yeah.
So
move the bye.
The bye's moved. The bye will be moved. Yep. And again, you got the best players some of the best players in the game weren't at the event.
Yeah.
Got to move the Brownlow medal to the week before the bye, which is before the grand final. So everyone's there, and it's compulsory. Everyone gets there on the Wednesday night. Make it there so everyone's in the room. Everyone can enjoy themselves, even if you're going into the grand final. I think that's a must and that will be changed.
And the Lions players and Swans players aren't realistically getting home until midnight, going to bed. It's not a great preparation to going into a grand final on a Monday night, getting to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock. So with Lynchy all the way with that one.
And with that...
No, not yet. One more. One more, Jill. Hey, Kano, just settle down, will you?
Kane's in there.
Kane's got eyes for me right now.
The timing for 5:15 for the prelim final for the Brisbane Lions, not so much the 5:15 or whatever it was, Twilight grand final next year.
Yeah.
I reckon it's
a good time slot.
Great time slot. You're not getting home too late. So I think that's done. We'll see a change for next season's grand final. Done.
And as someone who loves the tradition of footy, I can deal with the Twilight grand final as well.
You'll probably write an article in the AFL Record about it. And
yeah, there's a great one in the AFL Record grand final edition this week.
What's it about?
It's about it's about various footy historians, and plus me and Kane go one-on-one. Well, with the first 40 minutes of this show, we have solved all of the AFL's problems, and now we're going to help the punters earn and learn. This is the Snapshot. Ryan's in the studio with Rocky right now.
All the betting trends you need to know from the world of footy. This is the Snapshot.
For the final time in season 2024, we're back with the Snapshot. We've still only got the one multi up, Rocky. We're searching for a big one on grand final day. We'll get to that in a sec. We've got a few questions for you, though, for the Lions and Swans matchup. Let's start in the ruck. Oscar McInerney hurt. Darcy Fort likely to come back into the side, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's ready-made. He's been an emergency nearly every week for the year, I think, and he used to play as sub even a couple of times. So he'd be probably playing senior footy at most other clubs, I would have thought. So he gets an opportunity. That could be one of the great stories if Brisbane are to get up, him going into the ruck. But obviously Oscar, the sad story out of it as well. But they're going to have their work cut out. Brody Grundy is Brody Grundy's he's back to his best, I think. So he was superb the week before. So it's going to be a big challenge for the Lions in that ruck department.
Any chance we see Joey Danaher thrown in there again, or they're definitely just going to keep him up forward?
No, I think so. I think he provides a different element, an element of surprise. Sometimes he jumps, sometimes he doesn't. And if they're not getting on top, then it's something to go to that he can potentially throw the opposition midfielders out. And Sydney, they're going to need to try different tricks around the Swans. Their midfield's elite. As we've seen again, Brownlow night, they had 3 right up there and I think in the top 10 in the end. So their ground level players are outstanding. So I'd imagine at some point Danaher will probably venture through there, whether it's a pinch hit. But I'd imagine Fort will be the number ones there.
With that in mind, who are you steering the punters into in terms of goal kicking? Because Brisbane's obviously got a lot of small forwards they can rely on. And if Danaher is spending that time in the ruck, we only saw this last week against Geelong. Rayner, who you like?
Yeah, I think it'll be an even spread for Brisbane. I think they'll all bob up and kick a couple each. I think Bailey, Cameron, Rayner, Archie, Hipwood, Danaher, Lohman. They've got options galore in that front half. So I think it's exciting. I don't think anyone will kick a big bag. I think maybe 3 or 4 goals will be the most we'll see on the day, but I think it'll be an even spread from the Lions if they are to win.
We rewind to round 19 when these two sides last met, just around 2 months ago. Isaac Heaney was very quiet. We've got to keep in mind Rampy was out and Papley was out in the second half, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
Who do you think draws the Heaney assignment, first of all?
Dunkley. Yeah.
And who do you think is going to play a bigger role for Brisbane? Because I know you tweeted out about Ryan Lester after the Cats game and he was outstanding. And I thought Starcevic was really good as well. Do you think if those two guys are on, it's going to be very hard for the Swans to score?
Yeah, it will be. We spoke about Payne in the first segment as well. You weren't here, but he grabbed his knee late in that game with about a minute to go. So he's a big watch heading towards the team selection, whether he gets up and plays. If he doesn't play, then Lester's going to have to play tall. It's going to be an intriguing battle down there. Does Luke Parker, I think he'll go to Harris Andrews. I think we've seen Billy Frampton play that role last year. We've seen Parker on the weekend do it to Aliir sort of impacted it. Aliir was really impactful early on in that game. Parker goes to him, draws him away from where he wants to be, bobs up, kicks 1 or 2, looks dangerous in that front half. I think that might be the matchup for Swans.
That would be a fascinating matchup. Looking forward to that. And lastly, Lachie Neale was held to 18 disposals when they last met. Do you think the Swans tag him?
I think he'll get attention. He was best on almost again on the weekend in the prelim. I think he got most of the coaches' votes. He needs attention. You can't let him run around and have 35 plus. If he does that, the Lions will win. But going back to that game, they were probably lucky to win that, the Lions. Sydney probably would feel like they matched them really well. I think they were down to 1 or 2 on the bench. Really hot day up here. So it's going to be a ripping contest. Hearts leaning towards Brisbane. I think they'll get it done but it's going to be a real battle, I think. It's going to be looking forward to it.
McCluggage kicked 3 goals on that day too. So if you take Neale out of it, the game's far from over. Let's get into the total points. We're getting 170.5 combined total. The over is saluted in 7 of the last 11 meetings between these two sides. Just give me a quick tip on this one.
Over.
Norm Smith.
Bailey.
Zach Bailey. That's big value.
Yeah.
I like Cam Rayner at $26. He's hot and cold, I know, but if he plays like he did last week.
Same as Bailey. Bailey's hot and cold, but if he fires, he could kick 3 or 4 and $41. Juice.
Very juicy. And lastly, first goal kicker.
Lohman.
Yeah, he's been good too. I'm going with Will Hayward. Let's get into the multi. Give us your final 2 legs of the year, mate.
Final 2 legs of the year. Dane Zorko, 30 plus. I think he'll have a lot of kick-ins and they look for him all the time. I don't think Sydney will put a lot of I don't think they'll do a run with on him. So I think he'll have 30 plus, and I'm going to go Papley to kick 3 plus.
This is a big leg. Yeah, I like it. I'm going Rayner 2+ for the reasons I just mentioned. And I think this is a big game for Will Ashcroft. Missed this last year, 25 plus disposals for me. So to recap, we've got Papley 3+ goals, Zorko 30-plus disposals. Will Ashcroft, 25-plus, and Cam Rayner, 2-plus goals, $59.84.
That is plenty of juice.
It's one of the biggest ones we've had all year. I don't know why we're that confident, but
Well, it'll give us about 3 years of for play money.
we'll be in the green. All right. Well, it's been a good year, Rocky. Shame we haven't backed more winners, but thanks for joining me.
Yeah, hang around for the next segment.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions.
You're back on Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions. Alastair and myself are back on deck. Tom's here. Ryan's also sticking around. Hello, Ryan.
G'day, Dill. Good to be back.
That is quite a juicy multi you've got there. You boys are not mucking around.
Well, we've only got one up this year, so we've got one in the bank, so why not?
We want a succulent Chinese meal next week.
So basically, you're 2 points down. There's half a second remaining. You're sky hook from the other
We're
key.
throwing the Hail Mary.
Oh, boy. Well, Godspeed to you. Now, I've kept you here, Ryan, because I've given you a bit of homework this week. Basically, because it's an all-interstate grand final, as they're saying down here in Victoria, for the people from Sydney and Brisbane, the airlines are getting a bit creative. So I thought I'd set you an assignment as our resident travel agent to just try work out the great value bargains you can get if you're travelling from Brisbane and or Sydney to get to the grand final.
Yeah, we are looking for a sponsor on this show, Dill. So Flight Centre, if you're listening, give us a bell. Return airfares departing Friday. You're looking at about $650 or upwards one way.
Ooh.
Which airline?
Any, mate. I just looked at Webjet.
On Saturday?
On Friday.
Oh,
We're leaving
Friday.
Friday, coming back Sunday.
I was
That's what
looking
you're
a couple of
at.
days ago. It was $660 down, and if you come back on the Sunday, about $1,100.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Don't miss you.
But if our multi gets up, you'd be able to swing it.
Yeah,
So-
easily. Lynchy wouldn't have paid for an airfare in the last 30 years. I don't know why he was looking.
I just
Lynchy takes a private jet, doesn't he?
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
ridiculous.
No, that's absolutely I do. What do we got from
about from
Singapore?
Sydney?
I'm going from Singapore.
I think it was cheaper to fly to London or something to Europe. I think it was cheaper to go to Europe return. But it was if you were leaving from Brisbane or Sydney, you could go down watching NRL on the Friday night, make a weekend of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Storm
What about
Roosters.
drive?
Not
If you've got
50
three mates,
Yep,
drive down.
yep.
Well, if you want to rent a car, if
okay.
you rent one from Brisbane Airport on the Thursday or Friday, you're looking at $224 a day minimum.
Oh,
Not
right.
too bad.
It's probably a little bit cheaper than the airfares.
Petrol will cost you about 2,000. No, although petrol's come down this week.
Yeah, $1.50 a litre.
Well, you can fly in from Singapore on Philippines Airlines for $600 on Friday. Yeah, cheaper than from Brisbane.
You putting your hand
So
up for that one?
Nah.
Brisbane to Singapore to Melbourne. That's the best way to do it.
Yep. Or if you want to get the bus, it's only
Oh, the Greyhound bus.
19 stops from Edward Street to Sydney. Takes you 17 hours. You change in Sydney, then you got a 12-hour ride with 5 stops. You stop at Sydney Airport, then you go to Canberra, then you go to Albury.
Where?
Albury. And then
Hang on. Let's just back up on that one a little bit.
And then you'll eventually arrive in Melbourne. It'll be about 41 hours all up. That's what Lynchy normally does when he travels.
I'd go the train. No, actually, I wouldn't, but I'd rather
You're
go
on
the
the
train.
You're on the plane.
Yeah.
Get Elbow to fly down. He'll be going down as a Swan supporter, isn't he? Or Hawks or
Depends on the
Geelong.
day.
No, it's Hawthorn. Yeah, wasn't it?
Depends what scarf he's got.
And the Sharkies, isn't it? Isn't he Sharks?
No, that's
he's-
the old Prime Minister.
He's at South.
Elbow,
Oh,
very much a
apparently.
South fan.
Oh, yeah.
And your last option, Dill, I know you like...
Boat?
I haven't got boat, actually. You want to look that one up? No. I know you like to
I
run.
preferred our first segment to this one, mind you. Go on.
Yeah, that got the axe, unfortunately. I know you like to run, Rocky. You're racking up the Ks these days, mate. So 15 days, 2 hours if you want to run down there with Rocky.
leave, go back in time. Me and Kane can run down.
You're good mates, aren't you?
We're tired.
Well, I know about running from Kane, that's for sure.
It's not the story I've heard.
Oh, you're quick over 20 yards, I reckon.
We're calling him Melty Moment.
The Water Boy is what I've heard.
A water boy. Yeah. Big hello to Kane if you're listening. Grand final. We're going to wrap up for the week. It's been an eventful podcast, as always. you're obviously looking forward to the grand final this weekend, but to go, who do you have to win and first goal kicker? Tom.
I'll go a Norm Smith as well for you. We'll go the whole kit and caboodle. Kai Lohman, first goal. Little star. I love him. He should have been a bit higher in the Rising Star. Brisbane by 13 points. And Zach Bailey for the Norm Smith. I think he's going to really turn one on.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that paying?
That'll be juicy. That'll be the same game juicy. Yeah. I'll have a look at that while you guys go.
All right. I'll go Brisbane by 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go Will Ashcroft for the best on ground. And first goal kicker, I might go Eka Hipwood.
Eka Hipwood.
Eka.
Yeah. Eka, and I'm just to reinforce, I'm not betting on that. So that's just what I.
How many units
think will happen? No.
Of course, Alastair is a 2-time first goal kicker in a grand final.
Yes, and I reckon did Quinton Lynch? I reckon he kicked the first goal as well. So
yes,
there's about 3 in 5 years or something.
You're allowed to do a sweep. You've just done a sweep or something like that.
I've done nothing. No, I'm just keep me out of it.
Have you boys spoken about goal of the year yet?
Yeah, we have.
We have. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have.
Why'd you?
I was just going to say it was a farce. That the 3 that was selected as nominees were a joke. How are either of them a potential winner? But anyway.
Fair point. No, we've gone over that one.
My picks, I like Brisbane by 6. First goal kicker, I've got Will Hayward. And then Norm Smith, I've gone Cam Rayner.
Don't mind it. Zach Bailey's $41. I can't multi it up on the Neds app, but it'd be juicy if I could.
Brisbane by 22. Joe Danaher to kick. I was about to say North Melbourne. Joe Danaher to kick the first goal, and Dane Zorko for Norm Smith.
Yeah,
it. Dane Zorko, $12 for the Norm Smith as of Tuesday afternoon. So not bad. Boys, it's been an eventful podcast. I know Dad's with the big dogs, but I still love talking with you fellas.
Because you don't talk to Kane, you melt. You have to come and talk to us.
And you stayed with us, you didn't run off.
Yeah. I never forget where you come from. Right, boys? Never forget where you come from. This has been Ned's AFL.
No, we've got to wrap up the multi. He's rattled. He's rattled.
This
I was about to ask you for the multi, Rockliff.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you got the gig next year, Rocky.
I reckon.
Ryan's hung around. So we got the multi.
What is the multi for next week?
I'm not sure. I didn't get Ryan's legs yet.
Oh, there it is.
Have you done it?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the host to bloody throw to me.
I'll throw to him,
Well,
Rocky.
I usually throw to Rocky for the multi.
And for this week's multi, we go to Ryan. Ryan, this week's multi. Bit of juice about it, I'm hearing. Grand final.
You're in good form, mate.
You blokes were just doing it on the last segment.
Yeah, I know.
You should know.
Bit of juice about it.
Rocky, you have gone. Rocky, you've gone Tom Papley, 3+ goals. Zorko, 30+ disposals. I've gone Cam Rayner, 2+ goals. Will Ashcroft, 25+ disposals. $59.84.
How much?
Hail Mary.
$59.84.
$59.84, if you don't mind. Well, if that gets up, well, that is the whole year complete. Tom, good luck on Saturday as a former Lion.
No, thank you,
Good
Dill.
luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Good luck
Big
getting
Ryan.
out of the studio down there in Melbourne.
I will be fine.
I think there's
Ryan,
a bull
good
terrier
on
just
you.
outside the studio just waiting for you. Just rest on a bunny out there.
Oh, he's going to throw the fist, is he?
Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
Tough guy.
I'm ready to go. Jab cross, hook cross. Here we go. On that note, enjoy the grand final. We will catch you next week to wrap it all up.
Thanks for listening to Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions. Enjoyed the podcasts? Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.